thank you all for coming today. My name is Jenny Walton. I'm the nonprofit contract facilitator for the City of New York. And if you haven't heard of me, that's because it's a fairly new position still. The mayor appointed me in 2009 actually. So it's been almost 2 years that I've been in this position. Before that, I was the assistant director of capacity building and oversight for nonprofits that work with the City of New York. Now, what do I mean work with the City of New York? Because that could mean a lot of things. There are a number of initiatives that, the mayor's office, the NYC service office, they partner with nonprofits because they have the same goals, but there may not be a monetary transaction. What I mean when I talk about working for the City of New York is that the city contracts with a number of organizations, including nonprofits and for-profits, to provide essential health and human services to New York City. There's another monetary transaction that happens with cultural organizations who might receive a grant from the Department of Cultural Affairs. So these are the two main mechanisms that nonprofits can receive funding through the city. A grant is more similar to a grant that you might get from a foundation, but it still has a number of very strict oversight mechanisms and reporting mechanisms in place. That being said, it's still a grant, so you're going to get 80% of your money up front for a cultural organization receiving a grant. When you work for the city, you enter into a contract with the City of New York, and those entail all of the legal terms that you would think about when you think about a contract. You are providing services under contract for a particular fee that you are going to have reimbursed by the city, and those are kind of the basic tenets of a contract. You have to understand that there's services expected that you're providing, that there's a budget that you're going to be reimbursed for, or some sort of set of deliverables that you're going to be paid for, like a fee for service. But those are kind of the basic models that you kind of have to understand are funded by the city. So what we're going to talk about today is very specifically discretionary contracts. Discretionary contracts are awarded by elected officials. And elected officials are understood as representatives of their district, and so it's understood that they have a special relationship with the people in their district and the needs in their district, and the nonprofits who might provide those kinds of services that meet those needs in their district. And so they are allowed within the budget process to award funding without any competition, and that is not the case with any other contracts. With every other contract that the city might fund a nonprofit for, there's some sort of competition that takes place, a procurement process, and that's governed by the procurement policy board rules. Very, long set of documents, but those are our rules that we go by. So if you're ever very, hard to sleep at night, you can pick up that 100 and whatever page document and fall right asleep. But these are kind of the legal rules that we go back to when we say, did the agency do it right in our oversight role? Is this according to the rules? We go back to the procurement policy board rules. And they carve out discretionary contracts as a specific type of contract. So that's kind of the overview of what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to give you all the details because discretionary contracts have gone through somewhat of a transition since 2008. If you guys were around and reading the paper in 2008, there's a lot of stories about the city council's funding and some of the things that did not go the way they should have gone with that. And so it's the city's responsibility to oversee these funds. These are your funds and my funds, the taxpayers' funds. I'm not happy to see those kind of headlines. I'm sure that, one in this room would have been happy to see those kinds of headlines, to see, nonprofits that, people who are not doing the right thing. So the sense that this money is very important to oversee has become a big part of the process because of that special set of circumstances that allows these funds to be given out without the strict competition that would be in place in other kinds of service contracts. So there's a new system that's been put in place, and I'm going to turn it over now to Caitlin Caporelli. She's our Discretionary Award Compliance Coordinator, and she works for me in the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. And she's going to describe really kind of the details of that process. And actually, before I do that, can I see who in the room actually receives any discretionary funds? Is there anybody who does? Okay, good. So you guys are aware of this process, so hopefully we're going to iron out all of the misunderstandings and get all of your questions answered. And for those who do not have discretionary funds, talk about some of the implications of this process and the type of funding. when you think about, if this is something that you should be thinking about applying for. So take it, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Try sitting and then try to standing. Okay. So I'm, as Jenny explained, going to talk about the discretionary process and some of the specifics about what documents are needed and just take you through the whole process from beginning to end, how discretionary awards work. And first I'm going to start with just an overview of city contracting, which begins, again, going back to the procurement policy board rules. So the first step is the selection of recipients, who's going to be doing the services. Then responsibility determination, which later on I'll talk about VENDEX and Department of Investigation's role. Oversight approvals, our agency MOPS, Mayor's Office of Contract Services